So, we're back from commercial break here.
We are back.
So I have Danny Murphy with me.
In black.
Have Danny Murphy with me. We're going to be talking about primarily his book, Humor 101, which is a really cool book. I read it about a year ago. As a matter of fact, just before the interview for today, I went back and read it again. And before we get into the book...
You're a funny guy.
Before we get into the book, I just wanted to give people an idea of how the book came about. So tell us a little bit about how you got started.
Well, in
And I don't mean about the writing. I mean how you got started in the humor business.
in the humor business, yeah. I have had a pretty good sense of humor most of my life. In 1995, I was a little short on work, and I had an opportunity to go to a workshop, the Comedy Zone workshop down there in Mandarin, and which is a section of Jacksonville, and worked out some comedy and started getting on stage and went from there. Worked at it for a couple years, and eventually got into a couple other things. Did a little bit of acting, a radio show, which was enjoyable.
Yeah, and how did they? I mean, if you're a comedian, how do they pay you? Do they actually pay you for doing the gig, or
Well, you start off getting on stage wherever you can
For
for
free.
nothing.
okay?
And you do little showcase sets, which can be anywhere from 3 minutes up to maybe 10 minutes. And a lot of times the comedy clubs, they'll have 8 or 10 comedians go on for these showcase programs. And it's more or less a tryout. It's an audition in a way.
Yeah.
And that's where you begin to get comfortable on
And
stage.
if the owner likes you, then that's when you get the gig.
Absolutely, yeah. If
Now,
the
what
owner
determines that?
Well, the owner.
How many drinks they sell, or what?
Well, no, I mean, it is likability, whether the owner likes you, whether the owner thinks you can do a good job, and there's a business side of it too. You start at the low end of the totem pole, of course, and then, that's the MC level. You MC a show, and basically MCing is introducing the feature act and the headline act,
Okay.
and also reminding people about what's available at the bar or in the restaurant, and please take care of your waiter or waitress. That sort of thing,
Okay.
and whatever other kind of business has to be announced. So,
How long were you on the circuit?
well, I really didn't get out on the circuit too much. Most of my stuff was here in the Southeast. To say the circuit, you would think of headlining and featuring, and all over the country. I didn't take it that far because I was
I'm
having
just thinking regional. I mean,
regional.
so for
3
me,
years,
the circuit would
3
be
years,
yeah.
3 years. Yeah, right. Yeah, most of it places. I didn't get to the point where I was flying to places, but I was driving to places.
Okay.
So
So most of them within like 100 miles or something, maybe.
yeah, most. Yep.
Okay. What made you decide to write this book? Because I mean, when I think about comedy, it's like, you see the comedians, but you don't think about writing this book. And this is a very analytical book. I mean, in reality.
Well, I looked at it and I thought to myself, there are people that are public speakers that really don't know how to tell jokes. Some of them are very good, some of them aren't, and most of the ones that aren't want to be better at it because it's going to help them to
Right.
perform.
Because it's part of, when you're up there public speaking, to break the tension, at the beginning of the thing, they usually crack some kind of joke.
The ability to tell a joke enhances the life of the professionalism of a public speaker immensely. And so the ability to do that, it's important. It's a good skill to develop because it's going to help the engagement with the audience and help the public speaker to sell whatever it is he or she happens to be selling.
Yeah, I know from my own personal experience, storytelling of any kind, whether it's funny or not, can usually embellish the audience to be sucked into the subject, wherever it is.
Yeah.
But I also know that in the beginning, cracking that joke usually helps the speaker relax.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a good way to get people. One of the things when you go up in front of an audience is the first thing you have to do is get their attention.
Yeah.
Because they may be chatting, they may be drinking their cup of tea, doing this or that, looking at especially now, their iPhone or
Right.
their
They're
cell
buried in their
phone.
smartphone, right?
And you have to get their
At the
attention.
beginning of your book, you talk about what is a joke, and you sort of break down the parts. And I'd like for you to tell the audience, some of
Sure.
that stuff, so that they understand. A joke is not a joke is not a joke. I mean, it's
Yeah, well, the main components of jokes are setups, which is the explanation or the preface, and then there's the punchline. The setups are based on what we call a premise, the idea. The jokes come from an idea, and those ideas are premises. For instance, I recently did that joke about distracted driving. Well, that's a pretty straightforward joke.
So tell the joke again, because I don't. You didn't do it at the beginning of the show.
I didn't do it at the beginning of the show. So April was Distracted Driving Awareness Month. I had no idea till I was driving down I-95, and I looked off to the right, and there was a gigantic sign flashing that said Distracted Driving Awareness. Focus on your driving. I got to tell you, I don't know about anybody else.
Then just before you hit the car in front of you, right?
I found that very distracting. So that's a simple one. That's pretty straightforward. But so you start with an idea, then you come up with the setup. You know, I explain Distracted Driving Awareness Month. Then the punchline. Distracted Driving Awareness. I had no idea, you know, and that sort of thing. And also I break it down a little further into not just the punch lines, but punch words. There are words within the punch line that have to be stressed that make the joke funnier.
And you go through all the little details of how, and you give a bunch of examples of how they work and all that kind of stuff. And again, sometimes when people tell jokes, they fall flat because they're not putting the emphasis on the right word, or their timing was poor, any number of different kinds of things.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of times people that don't tell a lot of jokes, they will try to tell a joke, and halfway through they realize, oh, I don't remember all the details. I don't remember.
They forget part of the joke, and then it falls flat on their face.
They think it's a natural thing, and it's like anything else. You practice it. You practice a joke, and you get better at it.
Here's something that it was really amazing to me was the number of different types of jokes.
Yeah, there are a lot of different types of jokes. You know, there were the blue jokes, the dirty jokes, the racist jokes, the sexist jokes. What else? There's the self-deprecating jokes. People like those a lot,
Right.
you know.
The Dangerfield type deal.
The Dangerfield type deal, yeah. Right. Yeah, I tried self-employment, but I couldn't get along with the boss.
Again, here's a book that really explains humor in a very detailed way that the average person probably never thinks about because they're too busy laughing when they're experiencing it. But this really gives you a whole, as a public speaker, it gives you a whole new insight into some weapons that you can use as a public speaker. As tools, I should say.
One of the things that I did in the beginning was I went to sight gags. I went with props.
Okay.
And I see a lot of people, they misuse props. They don't realize that the
book's got a prop in it. You got a big cigar in it.
Yeah. That was a pretty good one for me. But they look at a guy like Carrot Top and they think, oh, he's just pulling stuff out of a box. No, he's thinking things through. He's developing a premise, a setup, and a punchline. And the sight gag is the punchline. Right. A lot of people don't realize that when they try to do a sight gag because, you know, it's got to be done at the right time and the right way or it's not going to come off. Is
slapstick sort of specialized prop usage?
Well, in slapstick, I would say that basically the performer is the prop.
Okay.
You know, and that's in vaudeville. There was a lot of that. There was a guy named Bob Nelson. He was big. He kind of became famous with Johnny Carson, and he did these bits which were hilarious and about football players and boxers and whatnot. And basically, he was the prop. I mean, his own body. Jim Carrey. He had the ability to, you know, make a prop, use himself as a prop.
Yeah. Tell me some of the stories from your comedy days, your comedy club. Give me one of your favorite events or stories from your comedy club days. It's in the book, by the way, in the book.
Yeah, there was one time, they used to have a comedy contest here in Jacksonville and brought in a lot of regional comedians. It was a pretty good event for a couple of years. And the one thing I would tell people is to be very careful about ever trying to do comedy outside because it is not easy at all. Yeah. It's pretty challenging, and
a little cutthroat too, I think.
Well, you know, I mean, it's like anywhere else. You have to get people's attention first, and if you're outdoors, it's a lot harder to get it. So, anyways, this is what we called a hell gig, performing outside of the Jacksonville Landing. People just walking around here and there, not really stopping and listening, trying to get their attention as they're going to do something. And I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 comedians went up, and then this guy, I forget his name, but he was wonderful. He was one of these high energy guys, and he really got the people's attention. And then I was the next one up, And I'm not that kind of an energy performer. Some guys are the energy guys. I was more the cerebral, the guy who does the more intellectual type jokes. And that didn't work at all. He put them in the palm of my hand, and I dropped that audience. It was terrible.
So you were like the Energizer Buddy
I was
without
like
the battery.
The vampire, the emotional vampire of the Jacksonville landing that night. But I've seen other things too. I saw at the fair one time they had a comedian go up inside the arena, and I thought to myself, "Oh, this is a hell gig for sure." And this guy was so hilarious, and he got the people, and they paid attention. He had a big advantage though, because he could sing like an angel. His name was Mark Lowry, and he sang with the Gaithers, so that was kind of an unfair advantage. But he had that going for him. He did a great job.
Whatever worked for him. I know we got about 4 minutes left before we get all the way to the end. You've written lots of different books. So this one is probably your most famous book, I guess.
This is the one. I looked it up. I told you this morning about, I looked it up on Amazon.
Somebody was selling a used one for, you said, how much?
They've got it listed for $1,872.
Now, you were telling me you thought that was a joke, that they were trying to play on you.
I don't know, but
It's sort of funny.
if anybody wants to buy a copy of this for $1,872, I will sign it and personally deliver it anywhere within the continental United States. I don't know, today or tomorrow. Okay.
However fast the plane can get there. Let's talk about some of your other books. So you have 9 books that are listed on Amazon. I've got them here. One is the first one, Words of Destiny.
Words of Destiny. That's kind of a Bible study of Scripture, a way to more or less program scriptures into your own head.
Okay, how about Easter Trilogy? What's that about?
Those are short stories based on the Easter story about the crucifixion of Jesus through the perspective of 3 of the participants.
I bet you the listeners wouldn't be thinking that you're sort of religious when you got a comedy club type of book and everything, but the reality is that's who you are.
Well, you don't always lose your religion.
So here's some of the other ones. The Narcissistic Code.
The Narcissus Code, yeah.
Narcissus Code, excuse me.
That's about a great public speaker who goes bad.
And the Chicken Nuggets for the Soul, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, that has kind of humorous meditations.
Yeah. Murphy's Lawbreakers.
Murphy's Lawbreak, again, some more humor, some meditative stuff there.
Yeah. Facebook's Anonymous.
Facebook Anonymous, more fiction about revolving around Candace Crush, my co-author.
Who's really a fictitious character.
Well, I wouldn't want to say that in public, would I?
Here's the one that I thought was really sort of off the wall. Starkageddon.
Starkageddon. I don't know if people recall, but a couple of years ago, there was a big controversy in the hub of Florida, Stark, Florida, where
which is on the boonies, by the way, if you know where it is.
Where atheists, they put up a atheist monument, basically in protest of the 10 Commandments monument that had been put there. So it was to equal things out, and it was that book was about that.
Yeah, and that monument was the first one of its kind in the United States. So it's an atheistic monument to
the first one on public land in the United States.
Okay, and then the last one was Tweet Destiny.
Tweet Destiny, more kind of inspirational, short inspirational bits in 140 characters or less.
Okay, so those were like, could you say that they were jokes that you could tweet out, or?
They're not jokes. No, they're more inspirational.
Okay, I have to see that one, so I'm gonna have to go check that out.
Absolutely.
I know people can get your book on Amazon, and I know they can get it on. They can find it on Good Books Online.
Yeah.
Is it on Barnes and Noble also?
No Barnes and Noble.
I saw actually when I did a search, there was one of them listed on Barnes and Noble.
They might have a used one. They might have this. I'll have to see what they got it listed. Maybe it's up to like $3,000. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know. Danny, why don't you give the audience your contact information?
Sure. My website is DannyMurphyAuthor.com. That's DannyMurphyAuthor.com.